What if the secret to happiness isn't avoiding pain, but craving it? Think about that for a second. Everything around you tells you to run from discomfort. Ads sell you pills to kill pain, apps to skip effort, and shortcuts to success. The message is clear. Suffering is the enemy. But what if you've been lied to? Friedrich Nietzsche, the 19th century philosopher, said something that still shocks people today. He claimed that chasing comfort doesn't lead to happiness. It leads to weakness. A life without struggle, he argued, is a life without meaning. And if you look around, you'll see he might have been right. People today have more comfort than ever. We have food delivered in minutes, entertainment on demand, and jobs that require little physical effort. Yet more people feel lost, anxious, and unfulfilled. Why? Because comfort doesn't build strength. It doesn't teach resilience. It doesn't force you to grow. Nietzsche didn't just say suffering was inevitable. He said it was necessary. Without it, you stay soft. Without it, you never discover what you're capable of. And without it, life becomes a dull routine, not an adventure. So here's the real question. Are you running from pain because you think it's bad? Or are you missing the one thing that could make you stronger? By the end of this, you'll see suffering in a way you never have before. You might hate Nietzsche for it, or you might realize you've been playing life on the wrong difficulty this whole time. Let's begin. Look around right now. How much of your life is designed to avoid discomfort? You put off difficult conversations. You scroll through your phone when you're bored. You choose the path of least resistance whenever you can. And yet, here's the strange part. None of this actually makes you happy. In fact, studies show depression and anxiety are rising faster in wealthy, comfortable societies than anywhere else. Nietzsche saw this coming over a century ago. He described a creature called the last man, someone who just wants to be safe, comfortable, and undisturbed. No great struggles, no big ambitions, just small pleasures and an easy life. He didn't mean this as a compliment. The last man, Nietzsche warned, is what happens when a society eliminates all hardship, and with it, all meaning. Think about how this plays out today. People work jobs they don't care about because it's stable. They stay in shallow relationships because it's easier than facing loneliness. They consume endless entertainment because real growth takes effort, and then they wonder why they feel so empty. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your brain isn't wired for constant comfort. Struggle isn't just inevitable. It's how you develop strength. Soldiers who survive war often say it was the most meaningful period of their lives. Athletes push through pain to achieve greatness. Even in nature, trees that face strong winds grow deeper roots. Yet modern life tells you the opposite. It says pain is always bad, risk is always foolish, and safety is the ultimate goal. But what if that's exactly backwards? What if by eliminating all struggle, you're not solving the problem? You're just ensuring you'll never become who you're meant to be? Nietzsche's warning wasn't just philosophical, it was practical. A life without resistance isn't a life well lived. It's a slow decay. And the evidence is all around you, in the millions of people who have everything they need, but nothing that truly matters. So ask yourself, are you living or just staying safe? Imagine two lives side by side. The first is safe, predictable, no real risks, no crushing failures. A steady job, a comfortable routine, days that pass without much trouble. Sounds pleasant, doesn't it? Now picture the second life, chronic illness, constant rejection, years of loneliness and struggle. One of these lives belonged to Friedrich Nietzsche. And here's what's strange. He wouldn't have traded his suffering for the easier path, not ever. Why? Because Nietzsche discovered something most people never realize. Suffering isn't just something to endure, it's the price of meaning. Think about your own life. The moments that shaped you weren't the easy ones. They were the challenges, the setbacks, the times you had to push through something difficult. Without struggle, there's no growth. Without resistance, there's no strength. And without suffering, there's no real purpose. Now ask yourself if you could press a button and erase every painful experience from your past, every failure, every heartbreak, every moment of doubt. Would you do it? Most people say yes at first. But think deeper. Without those struggles, who would you be? What would you know? How would you have grown? Nietzsche's answer was clear. A life without suffering isn't a life worth living. It's just existence. Modern society sells you the opposite idea. It tells you pain is the enemy, comfort is the goal, and happiness means avoiding hardship at all costs. But that's a trap. Because when you eliminate struggle, you don't find paradise. You find emptiness. Look at the statistics. More people than ever have comfort, security, and convenience. And yet, more people than ever feel lost, directionless, and unsure of what their life is for. That's not a coincidence. It's a consequence. So here's what nobody tells you about suffering. It's not the obstacle to a good life. It's the path. Nietzsche didn't just endure his pain, he used it. His illness forced him to think deeper. His isolation sharpened his ideas. His struggles became the foundation of his philosophy. And that's true for anyone who's ever done anything meaningful. The easy life doesn't create great art, profound ideas, or resilient people. Struggle does. But this leads to a harder question. If suffering is so valuable, why do we spend our lives running from it? And what happens if we stop? Nietzsche offered a radical solution to the problem of suffering. He called it amor fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. The idea is simple but profound. Instead of resisting what happens to you, embrace it completely. Every setback, every hardship, even the most painful moments. Why? Because those moments aren't accidents. They're necessary parts of who you're becoming. Picture a blacksmith forging a sword. The metal doesn't become strong by being left alone. It's hammered, heated, bent and shaped under tremendous pressure. The process looks destructive, but it's actually what gives the blade its strength and sharpness. Nietzsche saw human lives the same way. The difficulties we face aren't random punishments. They're the forces that shape us into something stronger. This changes how you approach problems. Most people spend their energy complaining about unfair circumstances or wishing things were easier. Nietzsche's approach was different. When his health failed, he wrote some of his greatest works from bed. When his books were ignored, he kept writing. He didn't just endure his suffering, he found a way to use it. Here's how you can apply this today. When something difficult happens, pause and ask one question. What if this exact situation, as painful as it is actually what I need right now? Maybe that failed relationship teaches you what you really want. Maybe that career setback pushes you in a better direction. Maybe that period of loneliness helps you understand yourself more deeply. This isn't about pretending things don't hurt. It's about recognizing that the pain serves a purpose. The athlete lifting weights isn't enjoying the burn, but they understand why it matters. Nietzsche's philosophy works the same way. The struggles you face aren't mistakes in an otherwise easy life. They're the very experiences that make your life meaningful. Most philosophies try to help you avoid suffering. Nietzsche's does the opposite. It teaches you how to use suffering as fuel. The fire that burns you can also forge you. The question is whether you'll see it that way. People often misunderstand Nietzsche's concept of the will to power. It's not about controlling others or seeking domination. That's a shallow reading. The real meaning cuts deeper. It's about mastering yourself, about pushing beyond your limits not to conquer the world, but to conquer your own weaknesses. Take J.K. Rowling as an example. Before Harry Potter, she was a divorced mother living on welfare, rejected by 12 publishers. Most would have quit, but she kept writing. Not because she wanted power over others, but because she refused to let circumstances define her. That manuscript in her bag wasn't just a story, it was her will to power in action. The determination to create meaning despite everything. This is what Nietzsche meant. The will to power isn't about tyranny, it's about transformation. The drive to turn your struggles into strength, to take what life throws at you and use it as fuel. Every time you choose discipline over laziness, growth over comfort, you're exercising this principle. Here's the challenge. What have you been avoiding because it's difficult? That conversation you need to have? That skill you want to learn? That project you keep putting off? Identify it. Then do it. Not despite the difficulty, but because of it. That resistance you feel isn't a stop sign. It's the starting line. Nietzsche's philosophy doesn't promise an easy life. It offers something better. A life worth living. The question is whether you'll rise to meet your challenges or let them define you. The will to power isn't about having control. It's about taking control of yourself, your actions, and ultimately, your potential. Nietzsche proposed a thought experiment that changes how you see your choices. Imagine this moment right now would repeat endlessly. Every decision you make, every action you take, would happen again and again, exactly the same way, forever. Not just the good parts, the awkward silences, the missed opportunities, the times you settled for less than you wanted. If you knew you'd relive all of it on an infinite loop, would that thought fill you with dread? Or something closer to satisfaction? This isn't about literal reincarnation. It's a test for how you're living today. Most people drift through life making comfortable choices by default. They avoid hard conversations. They take the path of least resistance. They do what's expected rather than what matters. But if you knew you'd repeat those safe, half-hearted decisions eternally, would you still make them? Here's how to use this. Pause right now and ask, if I had to relive today 1,000 times, what would I change? Maybe it's that project I've been putting off. Maybe it's how I spoke to someone earlier. Maybe it's simply paying closer attention instead of rushing through another forgettable day. The point isn't to judge yourself. It's to realize that eternity starts now. Every ordinary moment carries infinite weight because it shapes not just today, but every imaginary recurrence that follows. Picture two versions of yourself side by side. One looks back with regret at chances not taken, effort not given, truth not spoken. The other, though no more successful or privileged, faces the same struggles with full engagement, knowing each challenge is part of a life worth repeating. The difference isn't circumstances. It's the willingness to live in a way that could bear eternal repetition. This is Nietzsche's most practical philosophy. You don't need to believe in actual eternal recurrence. You just need to act as if it were true. Because when you do, something shifts. Petty conflicts lose importance. Time-wasting habits become intolerable. And small daily acts of courage start to feel necessary, not because they guarantee success, but because they make this single, non-repeating life into something you wouldn't mind reliving forever. There's a reason you've never heard this message before. Our entire system is built to keep you comfortable, distracted, and just productive enough, but never truly powerful. Social media feeds you endless distractions. Consumerism sells you quick fixes for problems that require real work. Even toxic positivity culture tells you to ignore difficult truths in favor of empty reassurance. These aren't accidents. They're profitable. Nietzsche saw this coming. He warned about what he called slave morality, a worldview where weakness becomes virtue, and actual strength gets labeled as dangerous or cruel. Look around now. People are rewarded for playing the victim rather than overcoming challenges, celebrated for complaining rather than creating, praised for sensitivity while actual resilience gets mocked as outdated. This didn't happen by chance. Systems work best when people are just comfortable enough not to rebel, but never strong enough to break free. A population chasing comfort is easy to control, addicted to distraction, willing to trade freedom for security. Nietzsche didn't just predict this, he explained why it would keep getting worse. Think about how often you hear messages like, "You're perfect as you are, so don't improve." Follow your passion, but never mention the hard work required. Practice self-care as justification for avoiding difficult things. These ideas aren't wrong, they're just incomplete. And that missing half, the part about struggle, sacrifice, and earned growth, is exactly what gets left out because it doesn't sell products or keep people compliant. The uncomfortable truth? Real growth comes from doing what's difficult, not what feels good. Strength develops through resistance, not comfort. And no algorithm, advertisement, or motivational quote will ever tell you that. Because once you understand it, you stop being such an easy target. Some hear Nietzsche's ideas and react with understandable skepticism. Isn't this just glorifying suffering? They ask. Are you saying we should seek out pain for its own sake? That would miss the point entirely. This isn't about masochism, it's about alchemy. The difference matters. A masochist enjoys pain itself. An alchemist uses base materials to create gold. Nietzsche never argued that suffering is good in itself. His insight was more practical. Since struggle is inevitable, the question isn't how to avoid it, but how to use it. A weightlifter doesn't enjoy sore muscles, but understands their necessity. A writer values the finished book, not the frustrating drafts. The pain isn't the goal, it's the raw material. Another fair objection arises. What about real trauma? Abuse? Tragedy? These aren't philosophical challenges to be overcome. They're human experiences that often leave lasting scars. Nietzsche's philosophy isn't a denial of this reality. Growth isn't linear. Setbacks happen. Some wounds heal slowly, others never fully close. The point isn't to pretend otherwise, but to recognize that even in darkness, small acts of meaning remain possible. Consider Viktor Frankl's observations in concentration camps. He didn't claim prisoners could simply think positively to escape horror. He noted that even in hell, people retained one freedom: to choose their response. Some found ways to share bread, others secretly taught lessons. These weren't triumphs over suffering. They were acts of defiance within it. That distinction matters. The criticism that matters most comes from those who've endured real hardship. They know better than anyone that suffering doesn't automatically make you stronger. Sometimes it breaks people. Nietzsche would agree. His philosophy wasn't for the broken, but for those who still had fight left. The question isn't whether suffering is good or bad, it's whether you'll let it define you or refine you. And that choice, when possible, makes all the difference. Nietzsche gave us one of philosophy's most chilling warnings. When you stare into the abyss stares back. At first glance, it sounds poetic. But unpack it, and you find a brutal psychological truth. The abyss represents life's darkest realities: suffering, meaninglessness, the raw indifference of the universe. Look at it too long, and something changes in you. Not because the abyss changes, but because you do. This is the turning point few talk about. Suffering doesn't automatically make you stronger. It can also twist you. History shows this clearly. Some people emerge from hardship with wisdom, others with bitterness. The same pain that inspires one person to create art drives another to destruction. Nietzsche knew this firsthand. His own suffering, years of isolation, failing health, professional rejection, could have made him cruel. Instead, it birthed revolutionary ideas. Here's the critical distinction. The abyss doesn't care what you become. It simply exists. The choice is yours alone. Will hardship make you resentful or resilient, cynical or clear-eyed? This explains why two people can face similar struggles with radically different outcomes. One grows through adversity. Another is broken by it. The difference isn't in the suffering, it's in the response. Modern life provides endless ways to avoid this choice. We numb discomfort with distractions, medicate normal sadness, reframe weaknesses as virtues. But Nietzsche's abyss remains. Sooner or later, everyone confronts it, through loss, failure, or simply the creeping realization that life owes you nothing. What happens next determines everything. Will you descend into nihilism, or find meaning in the struggle? Become hardened by the world, or transform yourself despite it? This brings us to Nietzsche's ultimate question. Not whether you'll face the abyss, but what the abyss will create in you. Will your suffering produce monsters, or something approaching the divine? The answer doesn't come from philosophy books. It comes from the choices you make every time life pushes you to your edge. Nietzsche's philosophy culminates in a radical call to action, not just to endure suffering, but to wield it. Imagine yourself as a sculptor standing before a block of raw marble. The stone has cracks, imperfections, rough edges, much like life's inevitable hardships. The common approach is to lament these flaws, to wish for smoother material. But the true artist works differently. They study the stone's nature, then strike deliberately, using both its strengths and weaknesses to create something greater than what first appeared possible. This is how we must approach our struggles. First principle: seek challenges, not comforts. Comfort is the enemy of growth. When given the choice between an easy path and a difficult one that leads upward, choose the climb. Second, reframe pain as fuel. Every setback contains energy. The question is whether you'll let it burn you or propel you. Third, and most vital, create meaning. Don't wait for it to appear. Meaning isn't found like a lost object. It's forged through action, through the daily choice to impose purpose on chaos. Consider Michelangelo's David. The marble he used was considered flawed, nearly discarded by other artists. Yet through disciplined effort, he transformed it into a masterpiece. Your life contains this same potential. The very aspects you might wish to eliminate, your struggles, your limitations, your past mistakes, these are your raw materials. The philosopher's task isn't to complain about the quality of the stone, but to reveal the form hidden within it. This is Nietzsche's ultimate challenge: to become the sculptor of your own existence, not by waiting for perfect conditions, but by working with what life gives you, hammer and chisel in hand, until you've shaped something worthy of your highest self. The marble is yours. What will you make of it? There's a cost to avoiding suffering, one most people never see coming. It's not that you'll miss out on some abstract idea of growth. It's far more immediate than that. Dodge every hardship, and you don't escape pain, you just exchange it for something far worse. A life with no weight, no stakes, no reason to get out of bed in the morning. Nietzsche saw this clearly. A world without struggle isn't paradise. It's a slow, quiet erosion of everything that makes existence matter. This brings us to Nietzsche's final days, that infamous moment in Turin when he collapsed, sobbing, onto the neck of a beaten horse. Some take this as proof his philosophy failed him, but look closer. Here was a man who'd spent decades writing about the necessity of suffering, now confronted with raw, unfiltered cruelty. His breakdown wasn't hypocrisy, it was the ultimate test. Faced with real, senseless pain, even the prophet of strength showed human frailty. That's the point most miss. Nietzsche never claimed to be superhuman. His philosophy wasn't about becoming invincible. It was about engaging fully with life's brutality without looking away. When he saw that horse being whipped, he didn't rationalize its suffering as character building. He didn't coldly analyze it. He broke. And in that moment, he proved his own argument. True strength isn't about never feeling pain. It's about staring directly at life's horrors and still choosing to create meaning. This is the warning we need today. Our culture offers endless escapes, pills for every discomfort, screens for every empty moment, ideologies that blame others for our problems. But each escape makes the world feel lighter and life feel emptier. Nietzsche's horse reminds us there are no shortcuts. Either you face suffering and grow, or you avoid it and shrink. The choice isn't between pain and peace. It's between meaningful struggle and meaningless comfort. So ask yourself, which will it be? The slow death of avoidance, or the difficult, messy, sometimes heartbreaking work of building something real? Nietzsche's final lesson was this: even the man who wrote the books couldn't escape being human. But in his brokenness, he proved his philosophy's core truth: it's better to feel deeply and fail than to never feel at all. Now it's your turn. This isn't just philosophy, it's a challenge. For the next 7 days, choose one thing you've been avoiding because it's difficult, a conversation you need to have, a habit you know you should break, a skill that feels just out of reach. Don't run from it, don't postpone it. Face it, not as punishment, but as practice. Comment amor fati below if you're willing to try. Let's see how many people are ready to stop chasing comfort and start building strength. This is just the beginning. Next time, we go deeper into Schopenhauer's unsettling worldview. If you thought Nietzsche was dark, wait until you hear why Schopenhauer believed suffering isn't just necessary, but fundamental to existence itself. Why pleasure is merely the absence of pain, and how this pessimistic philosopher might have uncovered the most liberating truth of all. If this video made you think, do 3 things. First, like it. That tells the algorithm to show these ideas to more people. Second, share it with one person who needs to hear this message. And third, subscribe. Because the most important conversations are just getting started. The modern world wants you soft. Nietzsche wants you strong. Which path will you choose?